Okay, welcome everyone to the lucky number 13th episode of Quarantine Chats. And my fellow Sacred Heart representing red polo wearing friend French Lewis is our guest here for today. French, what's going on, my friend?
Hi, Regis. Good to be here talking to you. I was kind
Yes.
of surprised that both of us chose the red heart or the red shirt for the Feast of the Sacred Heart without even
I
thinking about it consciously.
yeah, I was gonna say I wish it was intentional, but I think there was perhaps a little subliminal Holy Spirit messaging in there that said, "Here, this is what you should wear today."
I think so too because I was looking at another shirt and I'm like, no, let's go with the red one. And in my mind, that's really the way the Holy Spirit works. That it's what do I do? And oh, I wasn't going to do this, but there's
Right.
that little voice that let's do that.
Try that. It's like a hint in a video game.
Yes.
You're like off over here doing something, and it's like, no, 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 no. Go this way. Trust me.
Yeah, it's a little arrow. Come over here.
Right. Exactly. It's like a mission marker. I like
Exactly.
that. Um, so French is I've known of French for much longer than I've known him personally. French is from my home parish, St. Pius X in Middletown, and you've probably been there longer than I have, if I'm not mistaken, French.
Yes, we joined St. Pius in 1999 when we moved to Connecticut.
Okay, so I just
So,
barely have you beat. I joined St.
oh,
Pius when I was born in
yeah.
1996, so I've got you by 3 years.
Oh. But it's been a
But
lifetime for you. It's only
exactly.
been my adult lifetime for me.
Oh, if we're going by percentages, I've got you in
Yeah.
spades.
Oh, you're
Absolutely.
smashing me. Yeah.
So French and I obviously, we have the same home parish, but also we've done a lot of work together at Capuchin Youth and Family Ministries, where I gave a year of service last year, and French has come on numerous retreats there, from our Fully Alive retreat, where we talk about life issues, to a number of different things. So French is my bud. This is the first time I'm seeing you in a few months because we haven't been able to grab coffee like we usually do.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we were able
This is
to
pretty
find a
good.
way. Yes.
I did think about having an espresso with me, but then it would have been like an
Oh,
espresso and a Pop Tart, and that just would have been a letdown from the normal trips to Sweet
compared to what
Harmony.
we normally do, if
Yeah,
if anyone's listening and you're looking for a good, coffee shop or something like that to, when you do go out and feel comfortable going out to get some food again, Sweet Harmony in Middletown, check it out. It's
yeah.
top of the line, really. I know Cheshire has some great coffee shops. Sweet Harmony is right up there.
Now I'm all expecting to hear a little voice, but this podcast sponsored by Sweet Harmony.
Hashtag not a sponsor, but
Sponsorships
still.
are always accepted.
Oh, well, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
I'd probably have to go through the church. It's a lot of paperwork I don't want to
Yeah.
do.
I don't want to get you in trouble for that. But man, if you're listening,
So to start off, French, tell me a little bit about, because it's been so long since I've gotten the chance to chat. We've texted, but I haven't had the chance
right.
to sit down and have a conversation with you in a while. So tell me about what your quarantine life has been like since mid-March, when all of this shut down and you and your family all got, confined to the same house all at the same time. What's that been like?
Well, I think the experience has been similar for everybody in that at the beginning, I I personally didn't want to believe that we're going to be in a pseudo shut-in state for 3 months now.
Right.
Um, but at the same time, the while frustrating that we can't go about our daily life, for me, the what kind of hit home was the realization that being shut in, staying in our homes, was protecting the vulnerable members of society, and
Hmm.
that's really at the heart of being a Catholic. So I went from
Mm.
being like, oh, this is a pain in my neck, to, oh, I'm doing something good, and I'm actually doing what the Lord wants.
Mm.
Not gonna lie, the lack of being able to physically go to mass and physically receive the Blessed Sacrament, that's been far more challenging than I thought it would be. Far more of a struggle.
Hmm.
Um, I was absolutely concerned about what was Easter going to be like with, without being in church. What was
Right.
the Holy Week going to be like without being able to worship with my church family? And I'm sure all parishes did an excellent job, but I mean St. Pius did a phenomenal job with Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and the Easter Vigil.
Hmm.
And you know, it's a little embarrassing to say, but there's something to be said about attending the Easter Vigil in your jammies and being comfortable sitting and watching the mass.
There you go.
And you know, we lit a candle. Of course, we don't have a big Paschal candle, so our little votive candle was on the edge by the end of the vigil. But we made it through, and that part was good. The whole flip the coin of being confined to a house with four other people whom I love because they're all my family. But
Sure.
you know, it's I would say due to my job since probably 2007, I have never had 3 months straight of every night sleeping in my own bed,
Mm.
and it was nice. But you know, it was different. I think due to my line of work, I have a little bit of wanderlust where I like to get out and experience other people.
Mm.
And I didn't really get to see any other people in person, you know, aside from the at the grocery store or you know,
Mm.
people on video. So that was a challenge for my children. Um, I have a middle schooler and two high schoolers. The transition to online learning, again, a bit of a challenge.
Mm.
Everybody figured out their own different item or a different way that it worked for them, which was good. But my oldest was a senior, much like your sister.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of the people, the young adults listening in to the podcast from the youth group, and I feel for all of them because their senior year was an experience like I don't think anybody's ever had before, and
Right.
hopefully nobody ever has again. And so in our house, we ran the spectrum of we're laughing and joking, we're angry, we're crying, we're you know the whole run of emotions, which you know is what a family is. You do
Mm.
that, you try to support each other, and hopefully when some people were up on the happy laughing side and other people were down on the crying looking in the myself in the screen just didn't work. Well, we got the happy and the sad, and hopefully we tempered each other out a little bit.
Yeah, gifts and gaps,
So
right?
exactly, absolutely. Yeah,
Mm.
amazing how that one simple concept keeps coming back, that you know the gifts and your gaps, and we fill in for each other.
For
And
for those who don't know what that is, I've explained it to the youth group, but for anyone outside the youth group who's checking this out, it's a form of communal prayer. When you pray, you know, if you interlock your fingers like this, you know, sometimes we do that when we say the Our Father or other types of communal prayer. It symbolizes, so each of your fingers is your gifts, your talents, you know. So I have, you know, I can do good things with technology. I can create video podcasts and, you know, voice act, and, you know, I am good with people, that kind of thing. But we also have gaps. I am not as good as I'd like to be at organizing. You know, sometimes I sleep too much. Whatever your, you know, whatever you. But the idea is that our gifts compensate for each other's gaps, and together we form this community. So I think that's thinking about that in the context of a family right now, especially a family all together all the time, is a very healthy way of looking at it, because it can be easy to fall into the, oh my gosh, I'm so sick of my family, you know, which may very well be
Real.
true for just about all of us, but at the same time, it's important to recognize that a family is more than just five people kind of mishmashed, or four or three, or however many people are in your family kind of slapped together for no reason. They're, God put you together because your gifts compensate for each other's gaps.
That was very well said.
Thank you.
And here,
Thank you.
as close to me, like here's a gift from the gaps, and I'm doing hand puppets, and you
Well,
explained it essentially.
I had a little bit of practice explaining it as a cap cord to probably 80
Sure.
different groups of high schoolers. So a couple of things I want to touch on from what you said about your quarantine experience. The first was about your work and how you have kind of that wanderlust element. I think we all experience that to a degree in our daily routines, no matter what jobs we have, whatever social things we do. We all have kind of those ways that those moments and those times of decompression. And it sounds like for you, being out on the road, that kind of thing can be a way for you to decompress, or a way to have experiences that fulfill you in ways that everyday life, quote unquote, just doesn't do. And there's nothing wrong with that. We each have kind of that something where we get away a little bit. And maybe it's just reading out on your porch. It doesn't have to be, traveling for work, but we all have that kind of thing. So that's something that we've all had to adjust to in terms of figuring out how to do that during quarantine. The other thing I wanted to ask was, so you mentioned the Eucharist specifically and missing that, and being able to go to public mass. Have you made it back to one of the daily masses that we've had since they've been open, or are you still hanging back?
I've hung back because I'm, I don't want to say young, because compared to everybody listening, I'm not. But
Mm-hmm.
my concern is that the senior citizens of the parish are the ones who really want to be back. And if they've been truly quarantined, not going to the grocery store or anything, I don't want to be the one to put any of them at risk. So I was planning on going back, but I've dragged my feet a little bit, and I'm a little embarrassed to admit that.
Oh, that's no need to be embarrassed. I think it's important for all of us to recognize that we're all at different places with regards to
Right.
A, our comfort level, but B, whether or not there's certainly something to be said for taking extra precautions and being, caring for our at-risk populations. There's no wrong answer, essentially. Is, if you feel comfortable and called, praise God, that opportunity is open again. But if you feel uncomfortable, or if you want to make that sacrifice to not put other people at risk, that's fine too. And I think we need to be like open and charitable about that, because this is a very combative and adversarial time. And anything
Oh, you
that we
don't
can
say.
anything that we can agree on and say, like, you know what, we've got different perspectives, we've all got different comfort levels, and that's okay. We should lean into that a little bit, I think.
Yeah. And now, last week we did have Eucharistic adoration for the Feast of Corpus Christi,
Mm-hmm.
and I did attend that, and it was it was the highlight of my week so far. Just there were maybe a dozen people at the church when I was there, and normally at St. Pius when we have adoration, as you know, Regis, they do it for an hour, and then they
Mm-hmm.
have benediction. They did it from 2 to 5 on Corpus Christi, and I went toward the end from like 4:30 until benediction was finished.
We
And
were there for the
seeing like,
first hour, so we missed you.
okay, it would have ruined the whole intro though that we haven't seen each other. So
It's true.
probably,
It's true.
but it was just so nice to see everyone behind their masks, but to see the family again,
Mm,
and to spend time in front of the Lord, just talking it out, face to face, as it were.
absolutely. I mean, I've said a few times on quarantine chats with different guests that I feel personally extremely blessed. I have this. I'm at the center of this Venn diagram of these two amazing faith communities of St. Pius and St. Bridget, and they've both done an incredible job of adapting to the situation. You mentioned the adoration St. Pius had on Corpus Christi. At St. Bridget, we had a parking lot adoration. I think it was about a month, maybe a little over a month ago, but more in like the throes of full pandemic mode. There's been an online presence from both parishes at St. Bridget. They've been doing a casual conversations, like a living room chat with the parish priests on Saturdays on Facebook Live, and that's like a huge hit. So I personally feel very blessed to be like, I have a foot in both of these wonderful communities that are absolutely killing the response to this. But I want to move us into our main topic for today, because you and I could talk forever about just about anything.
And sometimes we have.
And sometimes we have. That's right. And as much as I would love to, I don't think the parish would be very happy with me if I posted an hour and a half long quarantine chat. So,
no.
So I want to touch on our main topic for today, which is fatherhood. Why are we talking about fatherhood? Well, if you don't know, fatherhood is Father's Day, is on Sunday. So I thought this would be a really good time to talk about the role of the father in a Catholic family and what it means to be a father today. So, easiest question in the world. I need you to tell me what fatherhood is to you in 30 seconds or less. Super easy, right?
Oh, absolutely. Do I get like a little ding to start, or
that's okay. A joke.
Fatherhood, it's really the hardest easy job there is, because I mean it's easy in that you're called to love your wife and your children, and that comes natural. The day your first child is born, whoa, I love this creature that didn't exist until my wife and I got married, until God gave us this baby, and it's like, wow, that's incredible. Um, but the hard part of that job, the part that makes it the hardest easy job, is in living up to the example that Saint Joseph gave, and the example that Jesus himself gave, using God as a father, because you know you want what's best for your family, you want what's best for your children, and sometimes it's easy to talk about when the kids are little, and they want to have an ice cream cake for dinner. And, no, you can't have that, and that makes them temporarily sad, and it's not fun to say no. You can't eat ice cream cake for dinner. You have to have your protein and your carbohydrate and your vegetable. But that in the long term, this one thing that causes upsetness now is going to be overshadowed by, in this case, the health benefit of eating a good diet, not ice cream cake all the time. And I do like ice cream cake, by the way.
Who doesn't, right?
Exactly. But the other part about fatherhood, and this is one where I kind of struggle the most with it, is I'm trying to, much like Saint Francis told his original friars, or his scribed or attributed with telling his original friars, preach the gospel and use words if necessary. Um, I'm I want my family to see what it means to be a Catholic through how I behave, not through, because they're going to remember what I do. If I sit there and I'm like, guys, here's what we need, here's what we have to do. We have to give to charity. We have to be kind to others. We have to turn away from sin and love God. And yet, we walk out of church and I'm, flipping people the bird and cutting people off in the parking lot, and and I don't even know what else. But if I'm not living the life, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So and I'm not. I don't. trying to think. No, I don't remember ever flipping anyone off in the parking lot of the church leaving after mass. But I'm not saying that I'm a terrible person, but it's the little failures that all of us have as people
Hmm.
that they weigh on me more sometimes when I'm thinking about, oh man, I really messed up showing I just gave the kids a terrible example of something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thought.
It goes back to that whole, when you're a kid, you think that your parents have it all figured out, and they're the gold standard, and they've just got it. They've got it. It's on
Hmm.
lockdown. But I've heard from many people, yourself included, and I can imagine when you become a parent yourself, it's like, well, wait a minute, I don't have everything figured out. What am I supposed to do?
Uh, I'll I remember saying this to my wife Suzanne when we left the hospital with our first with our oldest. And I mean, I felt like I had, well, I just pulled off like the greatest heist in the world because I had no business, being responsible for this completely helpless baby. And B, I was the guy that 2 weeks ago I would have driven past, and flipped them off on the highway because they're going like 45 miles an hour down 91 because
Mm,
I've got this completely helpless creature in the car.
mm,
So no, you don't have it figured out, but
mm,
well, I didn't. I mean, I'm sure some people do, but it's it's hard. But God gives you grace as you need it. I mean,
mm,
you said earlier one of your gaps is sometimes you might sleep too much, or you might want to sleep too much. I
mm.
love sleeping. I
Oh yeah.
love getting a good night's sleep when you know single, early in marriage, before children, and all of a sudden, baby comes along and
Mm.
baby's like eating at 2 o'clock in the morning. Baby's like having their diaper changed in the middle of the night. And they
Man, what
don't,
is with that?
I tell you, oh, what are they thinking? But, um, you know, you, you don't, you don't practice to get through like sleepless nights,
Mm,
but you, you get through them. God gives you the grace to get through them. There's often some laughs that go along with it. Delirium. And I wish I could say that the once they're sleeping through the night, all your worries go away. No, because then they become teenagers and they're going out and hanging out with their friends, and then they get a driver's license. And you're like, whoa, whoa, I, I don't trust her to ride her bicycle around the block. Never mind getting a 2,000 pound projectile.
mm,
But you know the you have to trust, and I forget which of the friars that I've developed relationships with told me this, but at some point you have to trust that you've laid a foundation that's going to enable your children to make good choices.
right.
And that's it. I'm not a control freak or anything. I'm not but you worry about your kids.
Of course. Well, I appreciate you being willing to talk about this because this is a very, intimate topic, I think. And fatherhood is one of those things that I think it warrants more discussion, and it deserves to be talked about more because a it's a really, really important part of the family, the domestic church. Motherhood and fatherhood are the cornerstones of how someone grows up in the faith. So I appreciate you being willing to talk about this with me. And you mentioned him earlier, so I want to move into the kind of the best earthly example of a father that we have. And I say earthly because obviously we have our heavenly father who is
Right.
the best father that any of us could ever want. But as far as earthly fathers go, Saint Joseph has got to be right up there at the top of the list. A couple of interesting facts about him. First of all, Saint Joseph has zero spoken lines in the entire Bible. Zero. Not one word is uttered in dialogue coming from Saint Joseph. So everything that we know about him, we know through others. He doesn't describe himself in any way, which kind of touches on what you mentioned earlier about preaching without speaking, and letting the way you live your life and your actions be, how you express yourself and how you set that example. He was kind of like the silent backstop behind Jesus, who was there, for Jesus, but wasn't going to put upon. So I want to ask, how is Saint Joseph an example of Christian fatherhood to you? And what do you think are some of the things that fathers everywhere can look to, and also how children can look for Saint Joseph in their own fathers? You know, nice, easy question for you there.
Man, you're just throwing all the softballs up today. I like that. Well, for me, I think, how do I want to do this? Okay, well, first I'll address St. Joseph, then
Mhm.
I'll address how, well, I'll take a long roundabout way, but I'll get there.
Sure.
So,
Yep.
St. Joseph, as a role model to me as a father, and I think that was one of the things you asked.
Yes.
I mean, he listened to God. He was open to dealing with something completely out of left field in the Virgin Mary becoming pregnant with Jesus. And, in the Gospels tell us that Joseph was a just man. He wanted to divorce her quietly so not to bring shame. And I could fully imagine, what he was going through. I think any of us can. That
Right.
I thought, this is my wife. What's going on? But then the angel appeared to him in a dream and said, trust me. And he did.
Mm.
And then, you know, Jesus is born, and I'm sure at the very first Christmas, Joseph did his part in finding the the stable or the cave or however we want to describe where the baby Jesus came into the world,
Hmm.
and did his part to make a comfortable place. Um, After Jesus was born, an angel appeared to Joseph again. And it's like, you got to get out of here because Herod's going to kill all the kids. You got to protect your wife and
Mm.
your son. And
Right.
Joseph packed up his family and out to Egypt they go.
Mm.
Um, so he listened. He was always there listening to God, and that's something that I'm no Saint Joseph, but it's something that I try to do. I
Sure.
For any decision with the family, I pray for, I pray on it, and the prayer is always the same. It's like, God, here's what I think I want, but uh, let me be comfortable with what happens because I have to trust that that's your will.
Mm.
And um, sometimes it takes a while to get comfortable with what
Hmm.
happens on a decision, but you just gotta. I feel that I have to trust, and I think that comes from Saint Joseph. The other part, and it wasn't until well into my adult years that, actually quite recently in my adult years, that I realized this. But my father gave good testament in his life to Saint Joseph.
Hmm.
There's often churches have statues of Saint Joseph the Worker, and we one of the main things that I knew about Saint Joseph growing up was he was a carpenter. That
Right.
he worked hard to provide for Mary and Jesus, and he taught Jesus that trade. Um,
Hmm.
my father worked incredibly hard to give my brothers and I the opportunities that we had for to go to a Catholic high school, to go to college.
Mm.
Um, and my father taught us to that your job as a man is to provide for your family and take care of your family.
Mm. Mm.
And I see a little bit of Saint Joseph in that. And the other part, and this struck me this morning when I was making my breakfast, is Saint Joseph was a he wasn't Jesus' biological father; he was his earthly stepfather. And
Hmm.
I know what an insufferable, know-it-all I was as a teen, and I had all this book knowledge that my father worked hard to allow me to get, and
Hmm.
I had no life experience, zero. And you know, granted, I I'm no Jesus either. I'm no Saint Joseph, no
Sure.
Jesus,
Of course
but
not. Yeah.
I could only imagine the conflict that Saint Joseph had with I am in I'm being charged with nurturing the Messiah,
Right.
and apparently he did that really well because for Jesus to talk about God as Father, some of that had to come from the relationship that he had with his earthly father.
Right. Well, I mean, in the Jewish tradition, in the Jewish household of the day, I mean, the father was the one responsible for bringing the children into the faith and explaining the faith to them. So Saint Joseph is probably the first person who taught Jesus to pray. He's probably the first person who introduced Jesus to his heavenly Father outside of the innate connection that
Right.
Jesus and God the Father, have as two persons of the Trinity. Um, so, I mean, Saint Joseph had a very pivotal role in not just nurturing Jesus as a man, as a child, but nurturing Jesus as the Messiah as well, because he he brought Jesus up in the faith. He taught him Jewish law. He taught him Jewish customs. Um, and I think that's really cool. A couple other tidbits about him that I forgot to mention. The first is, you mentioned that he wanted to divorce Mary quietly so as not to bring shame upon her. Well, he could have brought a lot worse than shame. Technically, he
Yeah.
could have had her stoned for, you know, the supposed alleged crime
Right.
of, conceiving a child out of wedlock,
Right.
while betrothed to another man. That's one thing. And the other thing is, even though St. Joseph doesn't have any lines in the gospel, we know that he was known and respected in his community, because when Jesus goes into the temple for the first time and reads the scroll, and is teaching, one of the first times he really starts to kind of flex his divine muscles, if you will. The people in the temple are like, "This isn't this Joseph's kid, like the
Yeah.
carpenter? We know Joseph. This is like his what's up?" So he he's such an interesting figure because of that quiet resilience, but also, like you said, the worker, the tradesman, known and respected in the community. So there's so many different angles to Saint Joseph, just like there's a lot of different angles to fatherhood and fathers. Um, I think that's something that we forget sometimes. That there are many different paths to raising a child in the faith, and there are many different ways that Christian fatherhood can be lived out. Just like there are many different people who are Christian fathers. Um, I mean, it's you're different from my dad, who's different from his dad. I'm different from all three of you.
Yeah.
There's all these different flavors, um, but the base ingredient is Saint Joseph. I think that's an interesting way of looking at it. So, with that in mind, I want to have a little bit of fun now. Um,
All right.
not that this hasn't
Well, this
been
whole
fun,
thing's
but
been fun. I was going to
I
say.
was just gonna say, not that this hasn't been fun, but this is kind of the lighthearted portion. So with Father's Day coming up, keeping in mind that there are all these wonderful, hardworking Christian fathers out there, we're now moving into period of celebration of these fathers. So I know, French, that you're probably not looking forward to a pack of white socks for Father's Day or something like that. So I have you here on the spot. I want to know insider info. What does a dad really want to do for Father's Day?
Oh boy. Well, I want to go on the record. I also don't want like a world's greatest dad tie. Um, along with the White Sox. And again, I make joke of that, but the I remember one year my brothers and I did get my father like a world's greatest dad mug or something,
Mhm.
and he he cried, and I saw my dad cry 3 times that I can remember in my life.
Wow.
Once when his father died, when my mother died, and this world's greatest dad mug.
Wow.
Um, and I'm sorry, 4 times when our first dog, who was 18, had to be euthanized because of complete.
Yeah.
Well, now I guess me cry, so I'll move
Yeah.
from that. But
Yes.
the dad's his answer to that was he felt like he absolutely did not live up to that mug, and it made him feel bad
Mm,
we that we thought something of him that he didn't feel he lived up to. So that's it. I
mm.
don't want a world's greatest dad time either, because I am by far from the world's greatest dad. But my well, how do what I want to do? I want to spend Father's Day. Let's get the family, have everybody home. Let's grill some food out on the grill.
Mm.
Maybe a fudgy the whale cake from Carvel. It all comes back to that ice cream
Ooh.
cake. And a little shout out, the fudgy the whale from the Glastonbury Carvel has a really thick layer of fudge.
Mm.
Um,
Hashtag not a sponsor.
exactly. Hey, hashtag. I am not expecting a free fudgy cake from Glastonbury Carvel, or even a free kitty cone. None of that. But just the being able to spend time with the family. Um, the as my kids are getting older now, and one's going to be off to college, God willing, in the fall, if things open up.
Right.
It, it's I'm trying to enjoy the time with them as much as I
Mm. That certainly that's one of the you don't want to make light of the pandemic, and I think we all certainly none of us are happy about it. But in the way of looking at positives, a lot of us are getting a lot more time with our family than we've gotten in years. I
can.
mean,
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time that my whole family was together under the same roof for this amount of time. I was in college in a way, and then I was at CYFM in a way. My middle sister has been at college and just graduated. My other sister has dance team, this, that, and the other thing. So everybody, I mean, people have been living in different states, but since March, we've all been together more than I think we ever would have thought we would have again. I know that's really crappy grammar, but we're starting to reach the point where all being together under the same roof this consistently isn't something that's in the cards much anymore. And I think your kids are starting to go away to college now, so it's in that same vein. And so it's a special gift in that way, the time aspect of it. I
And,
want the world's. Sorry, go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, and I mean, we've played more not video game. We have played video games, but more board games, more you know, getting together, all hanging out, watching the same movie on the TV instead of each of us, watching whatever it is on our phone. All sitting in the same room
Right.
like a bunch of strangers. Like we're in a waiting room. But
Oh my
there's
gosh.
been there's been positive to the pandemic as well as you know the the terrible negative, all the lives lost and people impacted. But there's God can bring good from anything. So
Darn
there
right.
are these little goods that God is bringing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to touch on that world's greatest dad piece that you mentioned there. Um, Mainly because this. So you said you would not you would feel your dad said he felt unworthy of something like that, and you said that it would be a similar feeling for you. And I think that is the if you could crystallize the beauty of Christian fatherhood right there is what it is. And it's that God takes people who are not worthy of world's greatest, whatever. We're all the world's worst at something, but very few of us are the world's greatest at anything. But God takes flawed people, flawed men, and to their children, they become world's greatest dad. And that's, you know, speaking as a non-dad, but at least from my perspective, that is the essence of Christian fatherhood right there, is bringing a bunch of flaws and God using your gifts and some of those gaps as well, um, to help you raise little people in the faith and in the church.
I think that's really the crux of Christianity in total. That
Mm,
you know Jesus could have picked the 12 greatest people in the world
mm,
to, well, in essence he did, but he could have picked kings and whomever to be
sure.
his disciples. And and you look at the crowd that he picked. you know the rock that the church was built on denied him 3 times
Mm,
during the beginning of the Passion. um, he- Jesus called the same guy. He said, "Get behind me, Satan." I mean,
right.
it's I I believe all we need to do is try to listen and try to say yes to God, to just be open to where He's going to take us, and God will take care of the rest. God's grace is far stronger than you know my willpower or my
Hmm.
flaws. So,
I mean, God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called, right?
oh, that's good. That sounds like a Father Eric Lanhardism. Um,
It actually wasn't. It was from a teen who was giving a talk
oh,
on one of our retreats. Yeah, JC, if you're out there, my man,
okay, yeah,
it was from you.
man.
I know, right? Good stuff. Good
Well,
stuff.
any retreat I'd ever gone on at CYFM, the the young people who are on those retreats just completely turn around. Like a lot of times you'll hear the media and such, you're talking
Kids
about
these
the younger
days.
generation. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting to be one of those people. I've got way too much white on my facial hair and in my head, but thankfully the light's not catching it. But all these kids, they don't, and I'm, but the strength in faith that I've seen from the young people at CYFM, from the youth. I'm pointing toward the direction of St. Pius from my basement. From the youth group at St. Pius, it gives me a lot of hope that,
Mm.
that the world's going to be in good hands, and that the church is going to be in good hands.
You'll have to come check out the NGD youth group at St. Bridget sometime, because when you want to talk about strength of faith, the fact that
That's
these guys have kept coming. We've had more online meetings now than in-person meetings because we had only started actual meetings back in February. So you want to talk about strength of faith and sticking with something. We'll definitely have to have you swing by sometime
that's
and
awesome.
and
I'd
meet the
love to
group,
come by.
because it's a special group. I have to stop myself from saying kids, teens. It's a special group of teens.
Well, you wait till you get to be my age. You'll call everybody like younger than 40 a kid, and
Sunny.
what?
Oh man.
You go. I wish I had one of those little things to put up against my.
Yeah, the little ear, or the horn thingy, right? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. My gosh.
Now I'm looking
All right.
around at the table. Is there anything that could I could improvise? Um, no, no, we're not going to do sketch comedy because
Oh man, as fun as that would be, seriously, we'd be here for
we have to
another
get back on
45
topic.
minutes.
Yeah.
Well, no, we don't have to get back on topic. We've bumped up right at the end of our time. So I think we've
Oh,
we've wrapped up our time. I know these things always go quicker than you think they will, right?
absolutely. Felt like we just started. Oh,
I know it did. I swear, everyone I've had on here has said the same thing. But that means we're having good conversation, and that's what quarantine
absolutely.
chats is supposed to be about. So I thank you so much, French, for
Oh,
taking
thank you,
time out. I
Paul.
know you're living the work from home life and swinging by and wearing the red polo. But obviously, just personally, it's good to see you, and hopefully we'll get to see each other in person sometime soon.
Absolutely. And I'd be happy to come by and meet your youth group because from what it sounds like, you've got an incredible group there.
Well, I've seen some presentations that you've done, and they've been fantastic. So maybe we'll have you come give a talk sometime.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'll pull the science and religion talk back out. Whatever
Oh,
you like.
yes. There we go. All right. Sounds like a plan. French, thank you again so much, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you, Regis.
All right. God
Bye.
bless.
God bless.